It was an ugly night in Raleigh for the Buds. Let's just break it all down here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, your daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast with your host here, David Morassutti. And joining me today is my good old buddy, Griff. As you know, it's been a rotating series of guests here on the Locked On Leafs podcast with Mike DeStefano not here this week. So Griff's turn, and I feel so bad. That today is the day that Griff comes on the show. But Griff, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, David. Always, we usually talk football, but you know what? It's always great to talk hockey, especially the Leafs, even on nights like tonight.
Yeah, well, Griff and I have done a few football shows. We're press box buddies at the Argo game, so it was. Yep, got the press pass. It's a memorable one. It's the Grey Cup championship season press pass, so it was good. Sir. But it's nice to have you here talking hockey. Unfortunately, it's on a night where the Leafs see their undefeated run of 2025 come to an end. All good things don't usually do come to an end in a 6-3 drubbing against the Carolina Hurricanes. Some of the stats may say otherwise in terms of how these two teams compared on the stat sheet, but the important one here is 6 goals against for the Buds tonight. And it was just one of those where it was looking so good. Everything was going great. Willie had a bunch of breakaways. He finally scored on one of them. Nick Robinson comes back from the lineup. He scores a goal. And Carolina flipped the switch. And it was like Toronto was playing keep up the rest of the game.
Yeah, I feel like for the most part, like they got off to the hot lead. It's like, you know, Nick Robertson had a really nice goal, William Nylander, but then it's kind of like, I don't even want to say they played keep up. I feel like they just weren't prepared for when Carolina came hot and quick, you know, when they were just like, okay, we're going to score. Jordan Staal, obviously, with the hat trick. They also reported his brother's Eric's getting his jersey retired on Sunday, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it just seemed like that too. And then even with Joseph Woll tonight, it was just so many goals where he was just like, you know, caught out of position or just like wasn't ready for what was coming his way, or just a couple bad ones squeaked by him. But you know what? I feel like we've seen this so many times from the Leafs throughout the years, no matter who the core is, that you just get a weird Tuesday or Thursday night TSN loss. And it's just, you know, like they feel like they're in it, but they're never really in it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and like this game, it looked like they were pushing Carolina the other way, right? And it looked like they were in it. And then, yeah, as you said, like once Carolina flipped the switch, the Leafs just, it didn't look like they had it. And we're going to be getting into the good, bad, and the ugly a little later in the show, but I think the prevalent part of tonight has to be the top line and how they just could not match what the Carolina Hurricanes were throwing at them. Like, Jordan Staal scored a hat trick, and Austin Matthews was on the ice for all those goals. Like, he got bullied by Jordan Staal tonight.
Yeah, he basically, well, Matthews, since he's come back from injury, like he looked really good. Like, look, he's getting out there, he's scoring. But then, yeah, it just seemed like when Jordan Staal flipped that switch, he's just like, oh, captain on captain, but I'm not ready for him, even though Jordan Stahl's much older and been in the league a lot longer than I have. It just seemed like, you know, they weren't ready for it. It just seemed like kind of that, hey, we haven't lost in a while game. So it's like, I don't even want to say schedule loss, but it's just like, it's not our night, guys. You know, you just kind of pack it in. You've been on the road for a couple, but it's weird too. Like Jumbo Joe, you got to get in there. You got to do some mentoring with the boys.
I think they had a shot of Jumbo after the Jordan Staal goal, and like his face kind of said it all. It was just like, Jordan Staal? Like, are we serious here, guys?
Like, guys,
I would not mind if Jumbo Joe went into that locker room after the game and said, like, what the heck, guys?
Speaking of that, can we have with our football connections, maybe get a little coach talk from Mike O'Shea in there and Craig Berube as well?
Yeah, just, you know, give a little head tap on the boys here. Like, so what's going on? Like, on the YouTube here, throwing up the stats. Like, you look at these stats. And it doesn't look like a game where the Leafs were outplayed, right? They get the power play goal against a good penalty kill, the top penalty kill in the league. They had out hitting them. That usually means it's because after the first period, Carolina had the puck quite a bit. But like the stats kind of show that this was not a game where it like the Leafs are out of it. And then you look at the other stats, and Griff and I are still, maybe somebody can help me out here because maybe I'm not understanding what plus minus really means. Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. This is from Sportsnet Stats. You know that this is true. The first Maple Leafs with a -6 rating in a game since Daniel Marois and Mike Bullard on December 26, 1991 against the Penguins. That was not a night that screams this is a prolific duo together. Like, unbelievable that this is what happened tonight with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. Like I think to me that's the story of the game is how they, great offensively, we know that, but defensively, this was a major step back for the two of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we've seen this time and time again. And this is the thing that truly gives Leafs fans PTSD. Not going like, oh, hey, because at the end of the season, no one's going to remember this game. No one's going to remember this game. But they've done this so many times come April and May that it just kind of unlocks that for Leaf fans where it's like, is this where we're headed towards again? Is this the rabbit hole we're going down? And you know what? For right now, yes. The other thing, too, I've seen just a couple of the Joseph goals, like with a couple of his goals he let in as well. He was caught out of position as well. So at the same time, too, it's like, but here's the thing with that, though. If your defense is there to help you, maybe the defense can help and get the rebound, get the puck out of play, and get the puck going into the offensive zone. So it's one of those things. Like, look, it sucks. We'd rather talk about a win, but you know what? It's better to dissect a loss just because I feel like now, too, this kind of brings them, I don't even want to say reality check. I want to say brings them back to earth where it's kind of like, hey, let's remember this feeling. We don't want to experience this feeling again, and we're just going to move on past it.
Well, look, like we know that the last couple of games, like the game against Philly, Joseph Woll won them that game, right?
Yeah.
They're being outplayed in that game against Philly for a good part of it. Joseph Woll kept the minute, right? This was a night where you need to remember you need to help your goaltender out a bit. And Joseph Woll was not perfect. That Jackson Blake goal, not great. And it's just one of those, another dig of a Leaf reminder that the son of Jason Blake scores on the Leafs. And I don't know how old that made you. And it definitely aged me to hear that. I remember when Jason Blake signed with the Leafs. I remember all the excitement there was. And man, oh man, there was not a lot of excitement after I saw that goal going. That's for sure.
Yeah, but then also too, like when it comes back to the defense thing too, it's a swift reminder, and especially as myself, as your average 30-plus-year-old beer league goaltender, that the goalie's always going to get the first one, but the defense has got to be there to help him get the second one. That's what I think a lot of it was tonight, where it's just like, you know what, Woll was there to get Woll will get the initial shot, but then when I say the whole thing about caught out of position, it's just referring to this where it's like, hey, if the defense is in the right place at the right time too, maybe they don't get the thing in there, and then if it's not one of those things, then instead of, if Woll was there a couple seconds sooner, he makes an unreal pad save, but instead it's, you know what, hey, Simone Benoit's there to help him out. Maybe it's there too. OEL helps him out, even though he's kind of flip-flopping playing on the opposite side with McCabe hurt, or even, guys like Matthews and Marner stepping up in the defensive zone.
Yeah, it's got to be one of those where you see a little bit more from the other guys coming in, helping out a little bit. We're going to dive into more of this game. We're going to go through, unfortunately, for the first time in 2025, the good, bad, and the ugly of this game. And the Leafs do have a game coming up this weekend against a team that has more drama going on around the team than the Leafs do, which is not very often you hear that in the NHL, and that is the Vancouver Canucks. We'll break all that down here next on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. Look, if I told you to put money on Austin Matthews score tonight, you came in and you cashed out pretty good. It's just at this point, you might as well give Austin Matthews the anytime goal bet for since he's been back. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and the Locked On Podcast Network. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues here. David Morassutti with my man Griff. And as I said, for the first time since I've been back, I've been very fortunate I only have to do 3 stars, but I knew maybe after the Jackson Blake goal that I would have to prepare for a good, bad, and the ugly to return. And man, there was good. There's quite a few bad, and there was a lot ugly in this game. So, Griff, you're the guest. What was something you thought was good about tonight's game?
Even though he was a -5, I'm still going to go with Austin Matthews just because of the goal he got. And I know everyone's going to go, they still lost. The fact, though, too, because even he was not sitting at the point. He's not sitting in the hash marks. He's right there in the middle of the crease, getting scrappy, getting himself in the quote unquote line of fire, and then still managed to get on, even on his belly, scores an unbelievable getting around Kochekov and just burying one. So you know what? I'm going to go with 34 because even though they lost, when 34 scores, he's building his confidence back, especially coming back from injury for the second time this year.
Yep, it's another game with a goal, and you like to see that from Austin Matthews, that's for sure. Mine was the start. You could not have asked for a better start. Nick Robertson, Steve Dang, I'll give him credit for this one. Nick Robertson, when he comes back to the lineup, Wayne Gretzky. The dude just knows how to put in pucks when he gets back after being scratched. Unfortunately, that's really all that Nick Robertson. He didn't really do much after that. To that point, it was kind of a rough night for kind of everyone on the Buds, but also William Nylander. I thought he was flying off the start. He was, in my opinion, he was probably the best Leaf in the first period. 2-on-1. When he looked off, who did he look off on that 2-on? Was it Tavares or McMahon? He went for the shot and just that thing hit the post like dead on. Could not have asked for a better shot. So then what happens? He gets another breakaway. He gets stopped. Gets another breakaway. He's like, no, not this time.
Yeah.
And he gets the puck to go in. I thought he was really good in the first. I thought the play dipped. It definitely dipped after that. I think everyone's play dipped after the first period. Yeah. But I think William Nylander, if we can get more of that, we've been talking about this. You need more outside of just one line driving things. I don't know if it was Bobby McMahon. I don't know if that addition has really been the reason why. I just thought Nylander looked more like a player that was playing with a little more purpose, especially at the start.
Yeah. You know what? They came out to the hot start. Nylander had the good goal. Nick Robertson too, but that's the thing as well. Maybe Nick Robertson's just getting a little warmed up because, as the broadcast said, TSN's next game is when the Dallas Stars come to town on Tuesday night. So you get a little brother bowl between Nick and Jason there.
Yeah, I mean, look, and Nick Robinson's got to show reason to keep him in the lineup, right? A game like tonight, they were looking for more speed. They're looking for. If Philly, they want more physicality, they're going to take Nick Robertson out because he's not the most physical player.
Yeah.
Now, with Max Pacioretty taken out, this is an opportunity for Nick Robertson to say, okay, give me another shot to stay in this lineup. And, when you're looking at the decisions that are going to have to be made going forward and things like that, Nick Robinson's going to have to find ways to continue to put pucks in net. And he's done that. He has been a lot better at it lately. I know Mike and I were big on him not scoring at the start of the year. It was rough for him. And it still hasn't been perfect. Like, I think he has more to give offensively, but there was that stretch there. Remember when he got in, when they did the McMahon, Robertson, Domi line, he scored in 3 straight games. I think he had 6 points in 3 games. Like it was, I don't know if you were going to be able to sustain that, but there was something there. You were starting to see the chemistry unfold. Maybe they reconsider reuniting that line. on Saturday, just to, especially when you got the home game there against Vancouver. But yeah, I thought that was a good thing to see Nick Robertson get back on the score sheet. The bad, though, because there's bad and there's ugly. So I don't want to confuse. I think the bad had to be. I'm gonna go with that Jackson Blake goal. I think that, or not the Jackson Blake goal, because they were still in it technically. The goal right off the start of the third period, because after that second period, the arena was rocking. They felt pretty good. The Leafs had a chance going into that third period to say, okay, let's relax it a little bit. Let's get back to what we were doing in that first period a bit more. Nope. 1 minute in, Jordan Staal scores the hat trick. Yeah. That to me was bad because it set the tone for the rest of the game and allowed Carolina to seize that momentum.
I want to go with the same thing too. Just the overall, the third period was basically like what we've heard before. Like, I'm filling in for just Mike DeStefano. You hear on Overdrive the trunk slamming and golf a lot. It seemed like they just kind of like, you know what, get this. Basically, their whole thing was, look, get us on the bird, get us back to Canada where it's blistering -10 negative more outside. Get us home. Like, it's just not like, hey, Vancouver's knocking on the door. They want to get there. That's a very weird quirk with this whole thing too, is where it's like Toronto plays in Raleigh tonight. Vancouver plays in Raleigh. Well, this will be released January 10th. So tonight, the Carolina Hurricanes play Vancouver. Then Vancouver's got to get on a plane from Raleigh to Toronto. So fun little quirk there. But, it just seemed like there was like a lack of effort, even to a lot of the chances. Like, Kachekov was making some really good saves in the third period, but it just seemed like they weren't like really trying, not that they weren't trying to score. It's just like, guys, when you're down like that, don't let it be the dagger, especially a minute into the third period. Show some fight. Because even if they make it 5-4 and you lose 6-4, it's a lot better than 6-3. 6-3 is just an ugly, ugly number.
It is. And to me, that's the ugly is, it was close. It was close. And then the team allowed a third line of Jordan Staal, Jordan Martinook, and Andrei Svechnikov to outplay their top line. And to me, that's ugly. I'm sorry, but you should not be getting outplayed by that line. I will take it if Sebastian Aho, Marnikas, and Seth Jarvis are the ones that are beating you. But it wasn't. And that, to me, that's what annoyed me about this game is when you see the puck going in the Leafs net and you seeing who's on the ice, and it's like, guys, what's going on here?
Yeah, that's the thing, especially too, like my ugly, like I hate to do this just because he did as much as he could to keep them in this, but Joseph Woll, like you said, some of the goals that were just getting past him tonight, like I said, getting on out of position, the Jackson Blake goal, the fact too that like, hey, right away, it's just like, oh, that got by me. Whoops, my bad. Like, no, that's someone, like I said, I play beer league hockey. That's something I should be doing, and I kind of do regularly every Monday night. But that's not something that an NHL goalie, especially one that people are starting to paint, is like, hey, he's the guy, he's the starter. I know all goalies are going to have rough nights. We've seen Igor Shesterkin have rough nights this year. Jeremy Swayman's come back to earth in the NHL. Jake Ottinger's kind of having he had some rocky games here in the season. But more than anything with Woll, I want to see, because I assume he's going to start on Saturday against the Canucks. I want to see how he rebounds. I want to see him come out and make, flash the leather a couple times, flash the pads a couple times. I don't want to see him, cough up an easy one. I know Vancouver's a good team, but there's some stuff there. So if you are the goalie we think you can be, this is the kind of game that you show the fans, hey, I'm your guy.
Yeah, for me, like, look, Joseph Woll, I'm not going to defend him per se, because you can't defend a goalie who allowed 5 goals. There was an empty netter for the 6th goal. I thought he was definitely out of position, but he was also fighting. Like, there were just times where there was that 2-on-1 where he stopped. I think it was Aho or Jarvis that he stopped on a 2-on-1. He was still battling. I'll give him that, because people are like, you take him out. And now I'm having people message me, oh, it's a time for Joseph Woll to have a seat. And I'm like, no, you gotta see how a guy back. This is the one thing about goaltend, especially if we're putting Joseph Woll right now in that category where he's looking like a starter, right? Starters got to be able to come in and rebound. Not, I had a bad game, give me the next game off and I'll come back. No, I want to see Joseph Woll back in the net and I want to see him bounce back from this game. And then if you want to give him a break after that, that's totally fine, right? Like to me, you I wouldn't say let him off the hook, but you don't want that to become the thing you always do after every loss. Is like, all right, now we're gonna give him a break because he was really good. But he needs to learn how to come off these losses.
Especially too, just looking ahead of their schedule, their next back-to-back's not until after the Four Nations Cup. So even like after Vancouver, their next game's Dallas, and that's on Tuesday night. So you have Sunday, Monday to recuperate. I don't like I said, when I'm putting him in the ugly, I'm doing it as a way to motivate him. If he does listen to this, I'm basically doing it as a saying, hey, Joseph, you had a bad night on Thursday in Raleigh. You know what, though? You're going to shake it off. You're going to go back home, hockey night in Canada. And I'll say this too. I feel like the Leafs Canucks is always Saturday at 7:00. I feel like there's never another time for it outside of the Canadian division. But, it's just more of like a motivation where it's like, hey, because too, that's the thing. Oh, it's like, you got to sit him. That shatters his confidence more than it helps it. What helps his confidence is going back out there Saturday night and proving to the fans, hey, this is who I am. I had a rough night 2 nights ago. Saturday night, hockey night, I'm the guy.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Like you just can't be like, I know people are ready to sit him, and I'm like, no, you want to do the exact opposite in these sort of situations. So let's talk about that next game. They have the Vancouver Canucks next on the tap, and it's a team that's going through a lot of turmoil, and it's in a lot of ways it's kind of it's a little funny, but it's also a little sad. We'll discuss why that is here next on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. I went to WrestleMania last year, as Griff knows, and it was one of those unforgettable experiences. And you can have those experiences too if you go to Game Time, because Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Amazing promo rate.
We are back here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. David Morassutti. Joining me is Griff, who you've been quite kind of busy with a few football shows. It's the college football playoffs. It must be kind of a wild time right now. As we're recording this, there's that big Notre Dame Penn State game going on. I don't know where we're at right now at that point in that game, because I know it was slow start, but it's just picked up in the second half.
It is 24-24 with Notre Dame has the ball at the 2-minute warning.
Wow. I know a lot of people who are Notre Dame fans, so if they pull this out, it's going to be a party over at a few houses tonight, that's for sure.
Yeah, shout out to some of our connections at the Toronto Argonauts there. We know there's some people that really bleed the Irish green.
Oh, absolutely. And unfortunately, the people who are not having a good time right now, Vancouver Canucks fans. And after, it always seems like this happens with Vancouver. They go on these highs.
Yeah.
And then it crashes down, comes up again, and goes down. It's like a roller coaster. It really is. So it's the Canuck roller coaster. They went in that run in I remember, in the COVID year, where they get in. Bruce Boudreau was the coach. They went on that pretty decent run, only to lose. Was that the year? Who did they lose to in the third round of that COVID? Was that Dallas that they lost to?
Vegas.
Or is it Vegas? It might have been Vegas.
In 7. That was Demko's coming out party.
Right. Yes. Demko's coming out party. And we'll get to Demko in a second here. And then you have last year. Nobody expected the Vancouver Canucks to really be a team pushing to go far really in the playoffs. And then you have that run in, the pushing in the Pacific Division. They lose to the Oilers because they literally went with their third goaltender because their other two goaltenders got hurt. Now the real storyline has to be the drama between Elias Pettersson and JT Miller, where it just appears that these two, it's like oil and water. They don't go, they don't mix. It's been well documented, and I'm so surprised that something like this has even been like made known. And Pettersson has not played well ever since signing that 11.5 million, almost similar deal to William Nylander, $11.5 million dollar a year contract. Like, it's just brutal. Like, there are people like, all right, where are they shipping out Pettersson to? And I'm like, oh man, guy's 26 and they're already ready to ship him out of town.
You don't in case like this, like, look, I know JT Miller went through some stuff earlier this season. We don't know about that, and that's none of our business to discuss. But I'll say this: if it comes to getting rid of one or the other, you go Miller. I know Miller's a older, more established player in the locker room and liked by a lot of guys, but you don't get rid of the 26-year-old. You don't get rid of the young guy. You don't get rid of experience like that, because look, for as much as Elias Pettersson, future Buffalo Sabre, sounds fun to say, I don't. Here's the thing too: does he help Buffalo win? No. And does him and what he do help the Canucks now? No. It's just Vancouver, and also to Vancouver. I was looking it up while we were talking, and Vancouver's in the last 20 games in Toronto since 2018, I think it was. They've only won one game at Scotiabank Arena since the name changes happened, and that's including all the times they played with COVID. The only time they lost to them during that season that was memorable was when Vancouver had the entire team get COVID their first game back, and of course the Leafs lost that game.
I remember that game. I was not happy
3-2?
after that game. Oh, it was brutal. I said the Leafs are probably going to lose this just because it was such a Leafy thing to do. But just the fact too that you have actual reported trades being turned away too. Miller, we all know the New York Rangers are looking to do some sort of deal, right? They already traded their captain to Anaheim, and that was that got a lot of buzz over in New York. Then you hear that they approached the Canucks offering JT Miller. They want JT Miller. They're offering them Mika Zibanejad in the conversation, which the Canucks are like, no. Now we don't know Zibanejad. Now Ellie Freeman wrote this in 30 Thoughts. He doesn't know if Zibanejad was approached about this. He has a no move clause. But the tidbit that Ellie Freeman adds here is that Braden Schneider is someone that the Vancouver Canucks really like. And the Canucks desperately need help on the blue line because it has not gone very well for them this year. They've had injuries. There was a time where Quinn Hughes was missing time, and like he is so valuable to that team. I think it's underrated sometimes how much he is needed on that team. But Hronek has been out injured.
Yep.
That's been a huge loss for this team because, you know, when Quinn Hughes was out, Tyler Myers was taking the top reps on the power play. Tyler Myers is currently playing with Quinn Hughes. Like, Tyler Myers is not supposed to be a top pairing defenseman right now. And you look at this blue line for the Canucks, it ain't very good. Add to the fact that Thatcher Demko has been out. Now, it's been made known that it's likely Demko returns. Whether he returns against you brought up the back-to-back that the Canucks are on.
Yep.
He's either returning against Hurricanes on Friday night or he's got the Leafs on Saturday. And, you know, if I'm the Leafs, you probably want to avoid Thatcher Demko just because he's a decent goalie. He's had the Leafs number in past games, if you remember. I would assume that they may not want to put Demko on the second half of the back-to-back. I haven't seen specifically if they expect Demko to be back against which game specifically he'll be back for.
And it's not like it gets any better. Like, I was looking ahead, and even if they don't want to play him Saturday against Toronto, guess where you're going next? They play Tuesday. They, like the Leafs, don't play again until Tuesday, but you're going to play the Winnipeg Jets, who are probably still one of the hottest teams in the league right now, with a brick wall in net, who's probably going to be the brick wall for the Americans come next month in Montreal. I don't know exactly where the games are being played. I know it's Montreal and Boston. I just don't know what games are where. But you know what? The big thing with this game I look at is how many smoky quarter poppies get consumed before the game. And how does I had to get it in there. I just had to get it. I had to find a way. But my main thing too is with this game as well, because I've only seen, I don't know if I know you've been to a handful of, you've been to Leafs games in your life. Have you ever seen Vancouver play in person?
No.
They were a team on my list for a while. I haven't, but I got to see them play once, and I saw them last year in Buffalo too. That's different, but I saw them, the only time I've seen them in Toronto was the 2016 game with the infamous fight towards the end in the third period when Derek Dorsett nearly killed Morgan Riley, I think it was.
Okay.
And then Matt Murray took out Troy Stetcher, and then there was this whole line brawl got involved. So I always look at that just fun. That's why I say that, and that was a Saturday night too, because it's just this. I don't care what's going to happen, but I feel like too in this game right now, part of me says this: if Vancouver bounces back and beats Carolina tomorrow night, because I could see that happening, because you know what, hey, Carolina's a betting favorite for tomorrow. Everyone's gonna be like, oh, they'll win again. Vancouver's been slouching. Vancouver's also got a really good road record. They're 11-4-4 on the road this year. And that's nothing just to, just glaze over or look over. The Leafs are 17-7 at home, but you're going to have a team coming in that's going to want to win. That's the thing with this game too, because even if Carolina wins tomorrow night, this game is a battle of, hey, you have one team who had a bad loss. You have a team who's just had a series of unfortunate events occur to them. So which one prevails? But I still think at the end of the day, history will repeat itself, and Toronto gets the win Saturday night.
So just to recap here, the Canucks are on a 3-game losing streak. They lost to the Capitals 2-1. It was a battle. I mean, the Canucks are the Capitals are a great team, so the fact that they held them to a 2-1 score is pretty impressive. Then they lost on Monday to the Canadiens 5-4 in overtime. So you wonder if that's sort of thing maybe the Leafs had to look forward to, and they lost 3-0 to the Predators before they went on this road trip. It's a long road trip for the Canucks. This is a 5-gamer, and it ends in Winnipeg. These next 3 games for the Canucks is the Hurricanes, the Leafs, and the Jets. Woo, that is rough. And so if I'm the Leafs, you got to take advantage of a Canucks team that's obviously struggling a bit here. There's a lot of noise and drama. The Canucks are going to hear about this. The players are going to hear about this probably when they come to Toronto with the media asking questions, right? It's one of those hot button things. And Hockey Night in Canada, it's going to be a very intriguing game. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Vancouver talk, which is usually not something you hear. It's always a lot about what's going on with the Leafs.
Yeah, but it's also my point too. How I was saying, Saturday night it's Hockey Night in Canada, so it's hey guys, what we're doing now is even more magnified. What we're doing now is even more, hey, we lose this game, it's just going to be taken so much more out of context. The one thing I'll say for Toronto for a very early key to victory Saturday night, attack early and attack often. Do not take your foot off the gas for 60 minutes.
You cannot, don't do what you did against the Hurricanes. You got a 2-0 lead, you press on it. They did not do that tonight. They unfortunately allowed Carolina to come back in this game. So we'll hopefully see a little bit better out of the Leafs against the Canucks. If you want to look more about the Canucks, by the way, make sure you go and check out the Locked On Canucks podcast hosted by Trevor Beggs and Kyle Bawan. They're both doing a great job over there in Vancouver. By the way, they have some incredible thumbnails on their YouTube. I gotta talk to them about maybe spicing up our YouTube thumbnails. It's pretty good. But they've been covering all of this drama. You can go and check out their stuff over there. Maybe we'll have to talk to them after this the game between the two. Maybe we'll have to do a little bit of a squad cast. We'll look at that next year on Locked On these podcasts. But first, I want to thank Griff for joining me. I don't know if Mike is going to be back in time for Monday's show, so we'll see. I may have to call another call to the bullpen. We'll see. But until then, we'll discuss the Leafs game against the Canucks and maybe other storylines that pop up from the weekend next year on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure you keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.